All right, so this is the group Bible study of Genesis chapter 34, reading from the New Living Translation, and I'll read it and then we'll talk about it. Genesis 34. One day, Dinah, the daughter of Jacob and Leah, went to visit some of the young women who lived in the area. But when the local prince, Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite, saw Dinah, he seized her and raped her. But then he fell in love with her, and he tried to win her affection with tender words. He said to his father Hamor, "Get me this young girl. I want to marry her." Soon, Jacob heard that Shechem had defiled his daughter, Dinah. But since his sons were out in the fields herding his livestock, he said nothing until they returned. Hamor, Shechem's father, came to discuss the matter with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come in from the field as soon as they heard what had happened. They were shocked and furious that their sister had been raped. Shechem had done a disgraceful thing against Jacob's family, something that should never be done. Hamor tried to speak with Jacob and his sons. "My son Shechem is truly in love with your daughter," he said. "Please let him marry her. In fact, let's arrange other marriages too. You give us your daughters for our sons, and we will give you our daughters for your sons. And you may live among us. The land is open to you. Settle here and trade with us, and feel free to buy property in the area." Then Shechem himself spoke to Dinah's father and brothers. "Please be kind to me and let me marry her," he begged. "I will give you whatever you ask, no matter what dowry or gift you demand. I will gladly pay it. Just give me the girl as my wife." But since Shechem had defiled their sister, Dinah, Jacob's sons, responded deceitfully to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, "We couldn't possibly allow this because you're not circumcised. It would be a disgrace for our sister to marry a man like you. But here is a solution. If every man among you will be circumcised like we are, then we will give you our daughters, and we'll take your daughters for ourselves. We will live among you and become one people. But if you don't agree to be circumcised, we will take her and be on our way." Hamor and his son Shechem agreed to their proposal. Shechem wasted no time in acting on this request, for he wanted Jacob's daughter desperately. Shechem was a highly respected member of his family, and he went with his father Hamor to present this proposal to the leaders at the town gate. "These men are our friends," they said. "Let's invite them to live here among us and trade freely. Look, the land is large enough to hold them. We can take their daughters as wives and let them marry ours. But they will consider staying here and becoming one people with us only if all our men are circumcised, just as they are. But if we do this, all their livestock and possessions will eventually be ours. Come, let's agree to their terms and let them settle here among us." So all the men in the town council agreed with Hamor and Shechem, and every male in the town was circumcised. But 3 days later, when their wounds were still sore, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, who were Dinah's full brothers, took their swords and entered the town without opposition. Then they slaughtered every male there, including Hamor and his son Shechem. They killed them with their swords and took Dinah from Shechem's house and returned to their camp. Meanwhile, the rest of Jacob's sons arrived. Finding the men slaughtered, they plundered the town because their sister had been defiled there. They seized all the flocks and herds and donkeys, everything they could lay their hands on, both inside the town and outside in the fields. They looted all their wealth and plundered their houses. They also took all their little children and wives and led them away as captives. Afterward, Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have ruined me. You made me..." Yes. Amen. "You made me stink among all the people of this land, among all the Canaanites and Perizzites. We are so few that they will join forces and crush us. I will be ruined, and my entire household will be wiped out. But why should we let him treat our sister like a prostitute?" they retorted angrily. All right, so I'll start off. The reason I chose this passage for you all, my professors know, was because some of you know, I grew up in a really ghetto situation, and for me, when I read this story, it was very hood and ghetto and wild, and it made sense to me. It wasn't. It actually was not like a story I was horrified at. I was like, wow, the Bible is for people like me that are messed up and jacked up. And this is a regular situation, sort of. Even though it's not, it's horrible. It was something that just spoke to me. So I don't know if you all could just share some observations you had and just kind of your thoughts about this passage, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I didn't.
You can talk loud for that.
So I was kind of laughing that, and I didn't even see this when I read it the first time, but how they all decided, like they all were like, yeah, let's get circumcised, let's do this, like that. I mean, this prince must have really had like some serious influence for an entire man to say, yeah, we'll get circumcised so we can have their lives and treating. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I noticed in verse 7, Jacob's sons, they were upset and they had said that Shechem did something that was disgraceful against Jacob's family, something that should not be done. It should never be done. And I just thought, like, yo, on one hand, I'm like, yeah, this is the covenant family of God. Like, to this family, the covenant promises belong to them. So later when God introduced himself to Moses, he said, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So, like, the promises belong to them, but they didn't earn the promises. Like, that was given to them by grace. Yet they take the fact that they're this covenant family, they've inherited the promises from God, and they use that as grounds to say, like, oh, you can't do that to my family. Like, you know who I am? And I just kind of saw that it was kind of like, man, like, you're who you are because of God's grace, not because, like, you built yourself up to this point and stuff like that. So I just noticed that among other things. She had a question.
Mm-hmm.
She said, why is it? She said, why is it that when Jacob heard of Shechem's actions toward his daughter, he didn't do anything at first?
I observed that. Like, that was one of the things that
When Jacob
stood out the most to me.
Yeah, like Jacob hears.
He's like waiting for his sons, and he didn't really respond. I guess the father didn't want to like respond right away.
Like Jacob, hey, your daughter was just raped,
yeah.
And he doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm. So verse. Soon Jacob heard that Shechem had defiled his daughter Dinah, but since his sons were out in the fields herding his livestock, he said nothing until they returned.
I mean, maybe like there's a reason why, because it says since they were out in the field.
Yeah, I have a good guess.
I mean, he's one human being against a nation, not a nation, but a whole tribe or clan of other people. At least you want your sons to. If something's gonna pop off, you want to.
See, I feel like it's really important to know, like, the way people, men, specifically a father, men in that culture, like, would have thought. Like, here, I'm like, why didn't you do anything? But yeah, that's why. It's like waiting for his sons to come back to make it. But he wasn't even a part of what they had done. So,
he actually was upset over it.
Right. Yeah. Like, even at the end, that's something else I noticed.
Well, I think.
So I noticed that observation at the end too, where he didn't really do anything, but then at the end he was like, "You guys have forgot our name here." So I'm like,
What do you think about it? Karen, why do you think he might have not,
Pride.
or like, why do you think he might have not done nothing initially, and then when his sons did do something, why he might have reacted the way he reacted?
I think it was just, well, I don't know. I think it was pride maybe, or he was trying to keep up with their name, with they're set apart. So I don't know. I think it was maybe a pride thing.
Okay.
I don't know.
What do you think?
She said maybe he's too old at this point.
Yeah.
I thought
practical like that.
when I read that, my first thought was it was funny. My thought was, oh yeah, if he tells his sons they're gonna stop working, maybe he wants them to finish the job and then he'll tell them. So that was my thought.
Here's a Mennonite.
Here's Mennonite, yeah.
I love my Mennonite brother. But y'all work a lot. I think my thoughts on it are, he wanted something to be done. He couldn't necessarily do something right away, but he didn't want that to be done. That was really grimy. Like, while these dudes were down and out, circumcised, the very thing God told Abraham to do as like a set apartness, they tell them, you do that with us so that you could be included with us, and then go kill those dudes. That's kind of grimy.
So they took something of grace and then used it. That's pretty wild. It kind of reminds me of how we take the rainbow. And now if I walk down the street and see a flag that's a rainbow color, I'm sad to say this, I don't think about God's promise to me. I think about homosexuality. Yeah. Like I think about that whole deal that's going on. It's kind of the same thing. If you take something that was of grace and you just spoil it to your own will.
And they were deceitful. Like in their, the prince was deceitful and then he was deceitful.
And she said maybe Jacob's hip was still hurting, so he wasn't trying to do that. Hey, that's a good, but that's good that you observe that.
That's a great observation, because what's he gonna do with a hurt hand? No, you're gonna fight a whole clan of dudes?
Yeah, I mean that's good.
One thing I find interesting is that they didn't seek God in this. You know what I mean? Like, it was all, there was just every motivation in here just seemed horrible.
Yeah.
Like the dudes that were like, obviously the guy who raped and the father, they were trying to think on how they could even capitalize off of. They were like, look, we'll all unite, and then their stuff will be our stuff. And they're like, hey, you get circumcised, and then you could be a part of us. And then they go kill and pillage. It's like there was just sin just everywhere in this story.
Yeah, I noticed something like that too. My first observation, my paper over there. Is that mine? That's not mine. But I don't need it. So my first observation was actually that it seemed to me that everybody in this passage was deciding good and evil for themselves. Like, because I've come to see the theme of that from Genesis 3 until May 9th, 2018, where since then we've been deciding. So in Genesis 1, God decides what's good, and he leaves it at that. Adam and Eve were supposed to, stay within those boundaries of whatever God said. That's what he said, and that's what we go by. They seize that for themselves, and they start defining what's good and what's not. So Cain thinks it's good to kill his brother out of jealousy. Lamech thinks it's good to accumulate wives and say that I'm not going to wait for the Lord to avenge. I'm going to avenge more than Cain would have, or something like that. So since the fall, we've been defining good and evil for ourselves. And I see that from top to bottom in this passage, where Shechem thought it was good to rape and then thought everything was cool after that. Like he was like, yeah, I just raped your daughter. Yo, can I marry her though? Like she's cool, right? Like I dig. And then like you had mentioned, Jacob's sons didn't seek the Lord. They just kind of decided right off the bat, like, look, I know what we're gonna do, and then kind of went from there.
I want to share something because this is just a story. Like, why include this story? Like, is it just a random story that was just inserted, or is it important in the big picture of things? So, obviously, I believe every story in here is intentionally in here by the Holy Spirit. And later on, so Joseph goes to Egypt, which turns into the whole family going to Egypt. And it was there that Jacob ended up giving his blessings to his sons before he dies. You remember that? Whereas then Jacob lays his hands on Ephraim and Manasseh. That's Joseph's sons. And then he gives blessings to the other sons he has. Look what he says for Simeon and Levi, the two brothers who went. He said this to them in chapter 49, verse 5. He says, Simeon and Levi are brothers. Weapons of violence are their swords. Let my soul come not into their counsel. O my glory, be not joined to their company. For in their anger they killed men, and in their willfulness they hamstrung oxen. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. So other brothers got from their portion. That sucks. But look what they did. They stopped a whole line of people, a whole people, because of one man, well, more than one, those two men's sin. Even though they all agreed to conspire to take their land and possessions and stuff. But still, because of what Shechem and Hamor did, all those people died because of their reaction to it. Like, those other dudes didn't have nothing to do with that. Young boys, teenage boys, I bet, that got circumcised.
As captives.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It was for to fulfill the gospel. Because they weren't the ones, the lineage of Christ. Or
Nah, that was hard.
Real life is happening in my house. Let me go talk to my son. Keep talking.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I noticed that, like, Simeon and Levi were dynasty brothers. Like, I forgot about that Leah, yeah, I just forgot. Because it says, one day Dinah, the daughter of Jacob and Leah, because he had Rachel too. I was like, wait, they're full brothers. Like, those other brothers, yeah, it was interesting that it mentioned them too, being the ones who were, like, taking their violence to the land. What passage were you thinking about, Karen?
I don't know. I was trying to figure out because in that passage there was lessons given.
Yeah.
And they were specific. There were was it like who were the ones that came out of that and had
What was the question?
like in that like when Jacob gave his blessings, there was some standout sons that from there came the lineage of Christ.
Judah.
So it was Judah. Was there somebody else too?
Well, remember Reuben ended up taking Jacob's, one of his concubines or something like that. So that kind of messed up. Yeah, that kind of messed up his. So if you look at that passage in Genesis 49, it says, Reuben, you are my firstborn, Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might and the first fruits of my strength, preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power. unstable as water, you shall not have preeminence, because you went up to your father's bed. Then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. So Reuben lost out.
Yeah.
Simeon and Levi lost out. So Judah was up next. And it said that the scepter shall not depart from Judah. That's in verse 10. So sin's consequence for these older brothers, their line wouldn't carry on to Christ. All right, we're going to close this out because real life is happening. Babies are pooping and little kids are screaming. Is there anything anybody wants to share? One last thing of lessons learned or anything from this study?
If you take control of sin, like try to like cover up your sin or take control, it's just gonna ripple out of control. Like yeah. Like one bad decision turns into another bad decision to another bad decision, and you wipe out a whole thing. Just surrender.
I see these types of scriptures as holding a mirror up to my face, and I see myself in this story. Not that I've ever done anything like this, but like I define good and evil for myself all the time. Like I did it today. Sadly, I'll do it tomorrow because I know my nature.
Keep talking to the camera.
Yeah.
Keep talking. Go ahead. Let's
It's easy to look at these stories and be like, oh my goodness, like these are the stories happening in the Bible, like, but our hearts are the same. We're the same people. Like, we're not much different from. If somebody like Lem could relate so much to a story that was how many years ago, it just shows like sin isn't. It's not new.
Yeah. It's not like a skin issue.
Like going back to your thought, babe, like in the beginning, that someone like you could like relate to a story like this from like thousands of years ago. Like it just shows that there's nothing new with sin.
That's crazy.
It's not. Yeah, sometimes we can feel really apart from the characters of the Bible, like we aren't just the same.
So what was the difference in Judah's sin? Because he was with with a prostitute.
He was with his daughter-in-law.
Yeah. So
crazy.
I know that one really. I'm like,
His brothers are jacked up.
It's like right in the middle, like before David.
Yes, it's a very like weird chapter.
Yeah.
So, but he gets he gets the blessing.
Noah was also saved from drowning, and then right afterwards got plastered.
Right.
So like I look at that too, and I'm like, yo, you guys. But the thing is, like I said, we do the same stuff. Like we may not be raping and killing whole nations, but like we think it's good to be bitter, and we think it's good to hold grudges, and good to seek after our own interests over the interests of others. And so like this just holds a mirror up to my face, and it's just like, man, like we do this, and we've been doing this, and it's sobering. Not because I've ever raped anybody or murdered, but because I suck too.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stop this here, and we're going to move on to one more question. And I'm going to stop this video, and the next video will answer the question.